Hello everyone, how is it going? Now we humans on an average read around 200 to 250 words in a minute. That's 200 to 250 words per minute. And that is something we cannot really call fast, right? It's kind of slow, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who wish to improve or increase their reading speed. In fact, there are a few things that we could start applying while we read something, while we read some pieces of text that could actually increase our reading speed exponentially. It can increase our words per minute exponentially. At the same time, we won't be compromising on our comprehension, on our understanding of what we read, and at the same time, we won't be compromising on our retention of what we read. So in this video, we're going to be looking at such speed reading tricks that could actually prove to be really helpful for us. So let's begin this video. Now, before we talk about those tricks or those tweaks, let us first understand why is speed reading so important. There are a lot of people who wish to read fast, but then there are a lot of people who don't wish to read fast as well. Why is speed reading important for us? Well, speed reading is useful and helpful apart from impressing others, that is true, but then apart from that, there are a lot of things that it can really help us with. First of all, it can really help us focus while we read, and it can really keep our brain engaged truly when we are reading something. For example, if we are reading something very slow, say a book or something, if we are reading it very slow, then chances are our brain will start interrupting us with all kinds of thoughts, right? I'm sure we've all experienced this before, and we all can relate to this. There are many thoughts that go through our head that interrupt us while we are reading. So if we are speed reading, our mind could truly be engaged with the book, and it can really help us focus, and our mind won't interrupt us with all these thoughts. That's the first thing. Second of all, it can really help us get to the real part or the main part of a book or of any piece of text. If there are things we already know and things we easily understand, then it's better that we use such speed reading tricks that can help us go quickly through these parts, and it can help us reach those required or more important parts quickly, giving us much more time. So in this sense, speed reading can always prove to be beneficial for us, and it's a great thing we all could learn. This will never go waste. So on that note, let's talk about those tweaks or tricks. First of all, there's one thing that we've all been doing even for simple texts, and that is really affecting our reading speed. What is that? That is sub-vocalization. Now, what's sub-vocalization, you may ask? Well, what's vocalization? Vocalization is when we are reading something and we are speaking each and every word out loud. But when we are sub-vocalizing, we are doing the exact same thing, but instead of speaking those words from our mouth, we speak those words in our brain. Let me explain. Now, I'm sure if you could go ahead and try reading something right now, if you do that, you'll notice that whenever you're reading something, you are actually speaking those words out in your brain. You're not speaking them out loud, but if you notice carefully, it's kind of a mind voice that's playing in your head by default. And in fact, this is something that's default for all of us. Some of the reasons behind this could be, first of all, when we were kids and we were taught how to read, how were we taught? We were taught to read each and every word out loud. Maybe that's the reason why this habit has stuck to all of us and is still our default mode of reading till now. Even when there are people around, we read those words out loud in our brain all the time. Now you may wonder, okay, cool, that's sub-vocalization, but then how does it really affect my reading speed? Well, the thing is, our brain and our eyes are much more faster at understanding things and comprehending things than our speech. Basically, this might sound confusing, but still, if we are sub-vocalizing, our brain and our eyes actually has to adjust and has to compromise on its speed just because it has to adjust and wait for our speech to finish each and every word. Now in this case, we aren't actually speaking, but still our mind is speaking those exact words at the pace we normally speak in. Now when we stop sub-vocalizing, that is when our brain and our eyes could actually use the potential they have for speed reading. Sub-vocalization is something we don't need in most cases. Why? because in a lot of cases, almost 90% or 99% words that we see in any piece of text are words that we already know. For example, a dog chases a cat. Now these are things we already know. We know what a dog is, we know what a cat is, we know what chasing is. Our brains have already formed neural patterns that remind us of these things. So it's no longer necessary that we actually have to speak those words. Now I know it can be really tough for all of us to stop sub-vocalizing and to actually read without sub-vocalizing, but then here are a few things that we could do actually. First of all, we could try counting from 1 to 10 whenever we are reading, and believe me, this won't affect our reading and our understanding. We can try it for ourselves. We can take a book that has relatively easy text that we could actually understand easily, and then we could go ahead and try counting from 1 to 10 and repeating it, and then we could go ahead and try to read at the same time. To our surprise, we will understand each and everything because our brain actually starts imagining each and every word, and that is a lot faster than speech. So sub-vocalization is something we could stop in a lot of cases. Now that was the very first tweak or trick. Now let's look at the second trick, which is using a pointer when we read. Using a pointer can really help our eyes focus on words that we are reading. It can really prove to be a replacement for sub-vocalization. This won't cause diversions and it will help us focus on the text, and it will truly enable us to use our eyes and our brain's power when it comes to speed reading. As and when we point each and every word, our brain could quickly form a mental image of that, and that is how we speed read. If we are reading on a computer or on a laptop, we could actually use our mouse pointer as a pointer, and if we are reading a book or something, we can use, just as I said, a pen or our finger as a pointer. So that was the second tweak or thing that we need to consider when it comes to speed reading. Now the third and the very last point, practicing speed reading and using it to our advantage wisely. Now this is a really important point, so I suggest that you hear this carefully. Now we have looked at two such things that could actually help us improve our reading speed, but then using this for reading obviously cannot make us a speed reader in say a day or two. That's just not possible. It is practice that will enable us to become speed readers and to really use that to our advantage. For that, to practice speed reading, what we could do is, first of all, we can take a timer and then maybe we could set a timer for 1 minute, and then we could start reading a book or a page or something like that, just a piece of text, and once the timer starts beeping, we can check how many words we actually read. That is our words per minute or our reading speed. Now just as we apply these speed reading tricks or these tweaks or start doing these tweaks, we can go ahead and check our words per minute or our reading speed frequently so that we get an understanding of how we are progressing in this skill of speed reading. That can really help us, and the more we start practicing it consciously, the more we'll get better at it. This is something we cannot learn in a day or two. That's just not possible. It will take us some time to understand this skill and to put it in practice. That was the very first thing. Now the second part to this point, using speed reading actually to our advantage and using it wisely. Now just as I said in the first point about sub-vocalization, I want to make one thing clear. Sub-vocalization isn't always bad. When the text is too hard to understand it's too hard to comprehend for us, sub-vocalization is what will help us understand it very well. This is something that will help us cognitively understand something that's really hard to understand, and that is where we should be using sub-vocalization, not these speed reading techniques. But then the real use of these speed reading techniques is when, say for example, we are reading a book and the first part of the book is something we already know and is perhaps very easy to understand for us. That is when we can actually use speed reading to our advantage. We can just quickly go through those parts to actually reach the important parts in the book, the important parts that we actually need to focus on. Speed reading will not compromise on our understanding and our retention of what we read, but just as a personal opinion, we should be speed reading whenever things are easy for us to understand. But if in a book there comes a part that is cognitively complex and is hard to understand, it is better that we keep speed reading aside and we use sub-vocalization to understand it slowly and to understand it word by word. That would be the best thing we could do. So I hope you understood this third and very important point, and this is how we can switch between speed reading and normal reading or sub-vocalization to actually make our reading much more fruitful and much more worthwhile. That was it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you found some value out of this one. If you did, please do me a favor by subscribing to the channel, and please don't forget to share this video with your friends, and don't forget to like this video. I'll see you soon in another video. Until then, take care, and let's start speed reading and let's start using it to our advantage.